This is Yvonne DeVita, and my question for you today is, have you ever considered plant-based eating? And by that, I do mean plant-based. There's a lot of it that I hear about, and I actually know a few people who are doing it. And I feel as if it's something that we should be talking more about. If you've considered plant-based eating, how serious were you really about it? Because my guest on Nurturing Big Ideas today is very serious about plant-based eating. Her name is Kathleen Gage. She is a good friend of mine. She and I have just been chatting, and I'm just so excited to talk with Kathleen and just kind of commune again together, Kathleen, because I really miss that. And she's from Power Up for Profits. That's originally where I met Kathleen. Very, very experienced and knowledgeable marketer and strategizer and business professional. But she's also taken it to another step. And now she talks about plant-based eating. So Kathleen, tell us the journey from this Power Up for Profits to plant-based eating, or are they intersected?
Well, they're intersected. It's like, I don't think one is exclusive of the other. And what it really is that it's not about living in silos, that my life is very integrated in a plant-based lifestyle, which I never intended for it to be that way. But it's incorporated into some of the things I'm doing in my business. And I'm actually in the process of making some transitions in my business that lean more towards working with companies that are within the plant-based industry. And whether it be manufacturers, whether it be food suppliers, it could be service providers, but really wanting to help raise the awareness around what plant-based eating is and really how good it is for us.
Well, I find it fascinating because when I talk to the women that I talk to here on Nurturing Big Ideas, my goal is to help them either start or improve a business that they have, and they're generally women of a certain age. One of the things that we don't talk enough about is health. Mm-hmm. And so when I saw that you were doing plant-based eating, and I got kind of excited because I knew you would be someone I could trust. I knew that if you were going to share information and guide me on that path, it would be because you had studied and actually looked at it thoroughly. Is there so women of a certain age, I say generally women over 50, but it could be women 30, it could be younger. I mean, my daughter Chloe, we both know she's a pretty much a plant-based eating person. We feed her plants when she comes to visit. and you know what? Kathleen, I learned to cook more vegetables because of that. So kind of help us understand a little bit about why is it good for our health? I mean,
wow. How much time do you have? Because we could talk for days on this. And you're right. I did a lot of research on it. And when I get an interest in something, I immerse myself into it. And so I've read dozens of books. I've watched hours and hours and hours of videos by experts within the industry, and also people who are just average people like myself who, for whatever reason, chose to go plant-based. And I actually I tried it a few years ago, but I wasn't 100% committed. And what I know to be true is if you're not 100% committed to something, you'll try it for a while, but then you'll get sidetracked and go back to your old habits. And this time I started because of inflammation, and I just turned 65, and I'm at a woman of a certain age who deals with health issues like many of us do. If I don't keep a check on it, it could get out of control. And one is arthritis, inflammation, diabetes, heart disease, cancers. There's all sorts of diseases that we actually have more control over than we realize. So as a writer, my hand was really cramping a lot, and I found that it was limiting my ability to do my job. And so as I started researching, I found a lot of information on how going plant-based. Now, what that means is eliminating all animal and dairy products. So we're talking fish, chicken, turkey, red meats, all dairy products, cheeses, which most of us are addicted to. And I thought, okay, I'm going to give it 7 days. I'm going to see if what they're saying is true, because it seemed like the miracle cure. And I thought, okay, in 7 days, I should see a little bit of an improvement. Within 2 days, there was a marked improvement. It was shocking how much I improved in a 2-day period. And I started running at the age of 60. And one of the things that I dealt with as a runner was pain in my legs after running a couple of miles, and the recovery time was really slow. Within the 7-day period, I noticed my legs weren't hurting, and I noticed my recovery was getting better. So I thought, okay, I'll try it another 7 days. Well, not only did I improve more in that next 7 days, I lost about 5 pounds. And I'm like, and you might notice that my face is thinned out a little bit.
I do.
I've dropped a rock solid 30 pounds. I dropped 38, but then I gained about 8 back because I wasn't eating enough calories. And that's one of the challenges. But what's interesting, Yvonne, is I wasn't dieting. I was actually doing this for health reasons more than anything. And the weight just started melting off. And it's just crazy because it's a weight loss non-diet, which is crazy. But then as I researched, I started looking at the whole compassion to animals. And what I realized for me, and I can only speak for me, but for me here, you and I both talk about, you know, we're so into animal rescue, we're so into this, we're so into that for the animals. And I thought about it and I thought, I can never eat another animal. It just was like, it was so aligned with my compassion for animals to eat this way. And so that was the next thing. And then I started looking in the impact on the environment, which the impact on the environment is incredibly high, where if you don't eat plant-based, the gases that are emitted, the amount of water it takes to get 1 pound of beef. I mean, there's a lot of science behind this. So really what started out as doing this for health reasons has turned into a much bigger personal mission for me. And the thing is that I went for my annual physical. My doctor was off the charts excited. She high-fived me. We got a picture of me doing a thumbs up in the gown and everything. And she said, keep doing the plant-based because your numbers have never been this good and they're better than virtually anybody I see at your age. And I'm like, okay, this works.
So Kathleen, it sounds to me like with the research you've done and the experience that you're sharing with us, this is possibly a way for people to live a little longer and be healthier. I mean, the whole long life, I want to live to 100 is no good if you're right? So that's one of the things that I'm looking at is I do have some of the issues that you talk about. And I do like my vegetables, but here's where I fall down. And I'm very compassionate. The more I read, the more I learn about how we don't need to have farms with beef, or we don't need dairy, we don't need all of that. Plus, let's just put it out there. There are substitutes, and I've taken them for dairy. Some of the dairy and cheeses, there are substitutes, plant-based substitutes that are delicious.
Absolutely.
But where was I going with that? To the health issue and to the living longer and being healthier, which is one of the things that Tom talks about a lot, is how you live longer and you can be healthier. We don't have to. This generation, though we were brought up to believe 60 was old, we know now that it's not. But we also are still not learning or paying enough attention to how 80 is going to be for us. And it could be better.
Well, and that, you know, that's such a good point, because I'm reading a book right now about women over the age of 65 and what we can expect as we age and progress in years. And the author talks about you can be an old, or you can be a young old. And what that simply means is we can't turn back the hands of time as far as the chronological years, but how we feel and our stats when we get our blood work done and all that, that actually can be reversed. And so for me, it's not how many years I live, but the quality of years that I live.
Yes.
And I have to tell you, since going plant-based, I have better focus. I sleep better at night. My moods don't go up and down. And we were having a conversation about how sometimes life just gets the better of you. And life can feel like it sucks. I mean, it's like, oh, not another day that I have to deal with this, whatever this is. And since going plant-based, I bounce back a lot quicker. I don't go into those mood swings like I used to. I was a major sugar addict. And so for me, I would eat not just one candy bar, but I would eat 2 or 3 or 4, and then I'd go get a box of donuts. I mean, I was really obsessed with sugar. And I did the same thing with cheese. And what I've noticed is because of being plant-based, and here's the number one question I always get: where do you get your protein? Well, the fact is, when you're eating a balanced plant-based diet, you're eating beans, legumes, greens, all sorts of vegetables, all sorts of fruits, fresh fruits, and as much unprocessed food as you possibly can. And you will find that as you eat like that, one, your body is just absorbing the nutrients. 2, the weight, if you have excess weight, will start melting off without having to diet. I don't count my calories at all, and I eat a lot. And I eat a lot because I'm very active. And that's another thing. You become more active. So the question I would invite people to ask themselves is, what is the quality of life that I want? And what am I willing to do to get that? Because many times people will say, oh, I can't give up meat. And it's not that you can't, you don't want to. You really don't want to. So whatever it is, I'll give you a great example. In another area of my life, I've been sober for 35 years. As a sober alcoholic, I had to make a choice 35 years ago. What was the quality of life I wanted? And I was one of those alcoholics. I was a blackout drinker. I fell down a lot. I, it's like that was a whole different chapter of my life. And I know early on there were times I said, I can't give up drinking. Well, it wasn't that I couldn't. It was like I didn't have the tools or the resources. And that's what 12-step programs are for. It's the same with plant-based eating. If you don't think you can, surround yourself with a community of people who have the information. One of the best books that I can recommend is Eat to Live by Dr. Joel Fuhrman. It's a phenomenal book that will explain so much and answer a lot of the questions.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. So again, back to the I believe for the full and happy life that we all want to live. Many women are either leaving corporate America at a certain age to start a business, but many women like myself, well, sort of, you reach an age where your kids are grown, you don't have grandchildren yet, you have a hobby or something that you've always wanted to do. So you should go out and do it. And I think I love the expression on your website that says conscious entrepreneur. So being a conscious entrepreneur, part of that is the health that we've been talking about, the plant-based eating, something to explore. And I'm going to share that book that you mentioned because I have it and I'm reading it right now.
Really good book.
And I'm also interested in you talking about how has your journey from the beginning of your Power Up for Profits to where you are now, how has it changed and what kinds of things have you done to reinvent yourself? I'm going to just put a little thing out there of the word pet and see if you can talk about that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I started my business 25 years ago. I just celebrated 25 years of owning my business. And when I first started, I worked in a lot of corporate environments, worked with municipalities, state agencies, federal agencies as a corporate trainer. And that evolved into doing a lot online. I was one of the early adopters with online marketing. Many of the circles I moved in, I was the only woman in the circle, and a lot of the good old boys club. That evolved into doing a lot of content marketing, writing books. And actually it was because of you that I was introduced into the pet space. I had done a fundraiser for a rescue dog She was a puppy mill breeder dog and had a lot of tumors. And she was knocking on death's door when she showed up on our property. We live out in Oregon. We have a few acres with horses and dogs and cats and chickens and all that, and definitely the barn mice. But one day this little thing showed up on our property, and we didn't even know what kind of dog she was. She was in such bad shape. As it turns out, she was a toy Shih Tzu and had been overbred. And unfortunately, she had many of the signs that she had been in a cage most of her life. She was flat on one side, on and on. And so I did a fundraiser, and you actually reached out to me. You'd been on my list for quite a while, and you invited me to come and speak at Blog Pause. And I said, well, the pet space is not my space. I don't work with people in the pet industry. And you go, but online marketing, and that's what we need to learn more of. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And I have to say, you created such an incredible opportunity by inviting me to Blog Pause, and it opened up a whole new world to me that I didn't even know existed. But what I find is now that I'm plant-based, I'm more in alignment with working within that industry too, because it's just, I don't know, there's something energetically, I believe a lot in our energy speaks volumes more than our words do. And energetically, it seems like animals seem to know that I've gone to a whole different level of awareness about the kindness to animals. And that's one thing that keeps me on the straight and narrow. I've done a lot of research on factory farming. And if anybody has any question about whether or not plant-based eating is a good idea for the compassion to animals, I would invite you. There's a video, it's about a 5-minute long video, The Truth About Dairy, I believe is the name of it. Amazing. And I encourage you not to look away. I encourage you to watch the whole thing. And there are people that say, oh, I don't want to see those kind of videos because it'll make me lose my appetite for meat. It's like, yes, that's what we want. And so, denial is great, but being conscious and aware of what you're doing is even, in my book, is even better. And being a conscious entrepreneur means that we're aware of the choices we make and the impact that we're having on the world. And I think that now more than ever, we need to step up to the plate. And if we have a mission, if we have a vision, if we have something that we really believe is going to make the world a better place, however big our world is, then I think we owe it to ourselves and to our community to do what we can to get our message out.
I think for our children and our grandchildren and for the planet. So yes. there's a big part of this that maybe we can have another call and go into, because this is also helping the planet. But back to the conscious entrepreneurs, and when I saw that on the site, and again, I will share your site also with them in my blog post. But when I saw that, I was thinking about the fact that you're right. Being conscious means you need to make choices, and it's your choice to be successful or not be successful. We know that, Kathleen, and that's why I reached out to you way back when I saw that you were doing the fundraiser, and I thought this is the perfect woman to talk to my pet bloggers about how the choices they make to build a business focused on the pets in one way or another,
right,
have to come from a place of knowledge and education. And so that's one of the reasons, again, as I said earlier, that I trust you, because I know that you've done the hard work of learning what you need to learn to help teach other people. So when we talk about choices and being conscious, what do you think is the biggest or first choice someone needs to make when they say to themselves, I love crocheting doilies, I want to make this into business and sell it? What is their first thing?
Wow, that's a great question, and what an interesting market. And it's a huge market, actually. I would say, first of all, go do some research other people who are in that industry, and even reach out to influencers and really check your motives for how you're reaching out to people. Be transparent and just say, I'm thinking of starting a business within this industry, and I would love to get your your experience. I'd love to talk to you about what it was like to start a business and see if it's even feasible, because it's great to have a dream about something, and yet you have to find out, is it really a viable idea? And then look at how much you do know about business. And if you don't know a lot about business, either check with your local chamber, check with your SBA, with SCORE. There's plenty of organizations that can help you to get started. But the thing I would recommend is look for any associations tied in with the industry that you want to go into. Look for the influencers, listen to what they have to say on iTunes. If they have books, get their books, and take what they say to heart, because lately I've been hearing a common thread among influencers that I follow. And it's really interesting because I've heard it over and over and over. And today I got a big aha around it. And I've heard it for years, but today was the day that it was like, that's it right there for today, what I need to do. And basically you write an affirmation on a 3x5 card in the present, whatever it may be. I am whatever, because whatever follows I am becomes the truth. So I am grateful for the abundance I enjoy. I am grateful for the clients I work with. I am grateful for my health, whatever it may be. You write it down, and 3 times a day you read it out loud to yourself. And I've heard that over and over. I heard Les Brown say it today. I heard a young man named Jake Ducey, he said it. I've heard Mel Robbins talk about it. I've heard Tony Robbins talk about it. And yet for some reason, we hear information and we discount it, or we say, oh, that's good information, but we don't immerse ourselves into it. So when you get advice from influencers and they're saying, this is what I had to do, I had to pick up the phone and call 10 people, and I had to do X, Y, and Z, then you pick up the phone, you call 10 people, and you do X, Y, and Z. Because some people try to reinvent the wheel, or they try to get the easy way out. And I'm a real believer in law of attraction. I'm a believer in affirmations. I'm a believer in journaling. And I'm also a believer in taking action behind what we say we want. Because far too many people nowadays, they've bought into this whole belief that all you have to do is visualize what you want. Well, you visualize and then you work towards what you want.
Exactly. I'm glad. That's exactly what I was hoping to hear. And, with that, we're going to have to wind up here because we come to the end of our time. And wow. I definitely want to do some more of this and talk some more about the topics and the parts of plant-based eating that we couldn't get to because it's so important. Well, Kathleen, not only am I grateful that you could do this with me today, and it was so great to see you, let's leave everyone with a thought about how, what you just said, the taking action. One of the things that I had a problem with back in my early days as an entrepreneur was exactly that, the take action. I wasn't sure what that meant. Sometimes it means joining. Are you still there? Uh-oh, I think we've lost Kathleen. Well, I can tell you that all I was going to say is taking action is very important. And the actions that you take are to, as she said, talk to other people.
I got
back. There she is.
I'm back. So I missed that last part of
yes. What I was going to say is I had trouble figuring out what it meant to take action.
Okay.
And one of the things that was very helpful to me is back in the day, we had a group in Rochester where I started my entrepreneurship career, called RPCN, Rochester Professional Consultants Network. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I thought that sounded interesting, so I joined. And that's where I found my community. Here's the thing, they didn't necessarily hire me. A few of them did. I was doing web content writing at the time. But what they did was introduce me to new people. What they did was offer me the tools once a week when we would meet and have meetings and someone would speak. I would learn what it meant to have an Excel spreadsheet. I would learn what it meant to incorporate my name. I would learn the things that I didn't know. So taking action doesn't have to be frightening, is where I'm going with this.
Right.
I mean, isn't what you're talking about when you say And I loved it, by the way, the do the things that the people you connect with tell you, because for golly's sake, as we like to say, that they've done it, they're successful. You should listen to them.
Absolutely.
But the first couple steps could be just joining a local women's group. Would you agree?
You know, it could be, and it could be just baby steps. You don't have to take the giant step
Yes.
to begin with, because a lot of baby steps combined will create a giant step. And you know, where I learned so much about really breaking things down and doing baby steps in bite-sized pieces is when I did my first marathon. I didn't go from never doing a marathon to doing one the very next day. I made a mistake of trying to do it too quickly. The first marathon I did, I made a decision 3 months later, I did the marathon, literally just about killed me. I mean, you know, it was no joke when I was literally crawling across the finish line and I was the last one in. And I thought, what could I have done differently? And what I could have done differently is given myself more time. I could have found the right kind of coaches. I could have joined a community of people that could help me and really show me the right way to do it. Now, 5 years later, as a runner, I was doing a 10K for the 4th of July. And what I did the whole month of June is I set a goal to run 100 miles during the month. Well, I didn't run the 100 miles in one day. I did 3 to 5 miles per day consistently. And that's the thing about taking the action, is consistent action. Because a lot of people will take action and then they get bored with it before they've seen the results. It's just like when you start eating healthy, you're not going to lose 50 pounds overnight. You're going to lose a pound at a time. And so you want to do it the healthy way. You want to do it the way that you pace yourself, and then, you know, have checks and balances. I wear a Garmin because I keep track of what I do so that I can have something to measure my success by, and I can have baselines of where I am and where I need to go.
That's so important. And that's exactly what I was hoping that you would help and share with us. So this has been wonderful. I really do. Hope we'll do it again. I will make a note to reconnect with you maybe in the fall or the winter, and we'll talk a little bit more about it.
Absolutely.
In the meantime, this is Yvonne DeVita from Nurturing Big Ideas Today. My guest, Kathleen Gage from Power Up for Profits and Plant-Based Eating, and you will get all the information that you need about her and how to connect on the blog next week when we put up our Smart Conversation. Thank you, Kathleen.
Thank you.